Hi, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of Made by Marymount, the official Marymount Athletics podcast. Today, I am joined by Associate AD for Student Athlete Development, Ryan Wildenhain. Today, Ryan and I talk about the honor of being selected for the NCAA Pathway Program and the many, many hats that Ryan wears for Marymount Athletics. With that, let's chat with Ryan. Hi, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of Made by Marymount, the official Marymount Athletics podcast. Today, I'm joined by one of our associate ADs, Ryan Wildenhain. Ryan, I'm so glad to have you here on Made by Marymount today. This has been something I've been waiting on. How are you feeling? Are you excited?
I'm a little nervous. I've been resistant to joining the pod for a long time, but we've discussed about it. But this year, me going through the Pathway Program, I think it's the best year for me to do it.
Yeah, how do we not have you on? You know what I mean? This is MTV for Marymount, basically. This is a big deal.
Yeah.
So, Ryan, you are a part of the Pathway Program for the NCAA this year, which is huge, which is a huge accomplishment for you. Tell us a little bit about the Pathway Program. Tell us what it is and kind of how special it is to be a part of this program.
Yeah, being part of the Pathway Program is special, and it's a blessing to be a part of that. I have applied several years to try to get in, so it's extremely hard to get into. There's only so many from Division II, Division III that get in, and then Division I has their own bigger cohort that gets in. So in all, there's only 20 of us. And if you think about the grand scheme of the NCAA, all divisions, and how many people apply to it, to be one of 20 is super special.
Yeah, that's insane.
The program's designed for senior level administrators that are looking to make that leap into becoming an athletic director at some point in their career. Doesn't necessarily have to be like the next year, but hey, we're taking the steps to get you in the right path, hence the Pathway Program. And in preparation for you being AD and to represent the Pathway Program well at that too. So a lot of it has been a lot of our own values and how that plays a role in our leadership philosophy and introspective thinking, which it takes a lot of energy, and it's been interesting, and I'm very blessed to be a part of it, like I said, and being able to be part of the cohort that I'm a part of and how vulnerable they are when we're together has been really special, and I think it's helped us grow as a group. Mm-hmm. And I look forward to remaining friends and having those relationships with them for years to come, and hopefully as athletic directors.
So about, I think a month ago, a little less, a little over, you went to Indiana for the Pathway Program and kind of like met up with these 20 individuals. Tell me a little bit about what that was like, because that was your second time going out there. Tell me a little bit about, this most recent time. You said that was probably the most time where you guys have seen each other grow. What was that experience like? What did all that entail?
Right, definitely. Well, let me clarify. So that was only D2 and D3 that were there. Division I were there, 10 days, 2 weeks ahead of us. And it all aligns with the management council for each division. So Division I management council met earlier than Division II and Division III. So when we went to ND, myself and my other Division III counterparts were able to sit in on management council our first day there, which that in itself is like such an experience to hear all these different committees across Division III kind of talk about the different proposals that are being brought forth, and then how it's being presented and voted on. And that's really like where a lot of decisions are made for Division III, for any association, is at the management council. And it represents so many different conferences. There's presidents that are involved. There's FARs that are involved. It was awesome to see that.
Yeah.
And also for issues that come forth and hear how people are thinking about them and how the solutions may play out, that's awesome. So that was like truly the first day. We had like an evening session the night before, which really started tapping into our values and who we are as a person. But then the rest of the week after management council was, who we are as a person and building our personal narrative. Because at the end of that week, we were put on film and asked a series of 3 questions. Ooh. And if I was nervous about this, I was like super nervous about that.
Right.
Being put in front of somebody that works at the Pentagon as well. And she's asking you questions basically like, Why do you want to be an AD? How did you get here? Why are you uniquely qualified to be an AD?
Yeah, like some of the most important questions.
Right. And then what are you doing between now and becoming an AD to work on your weaknesses or where your shortfalls are? So those are like 3 loaded questions, and you have to think about them and unpack a lot of stuff in a short amount of time, because obviously if you're in an interview, you don't want to be rambling on.
Right.
You want it to be clear and concise, but also authentic, and you want people to be able to connect with you, right? And storytelling. So that's something that I had to learn through that, and building your personal narrative isn't, so when you ask like, hey, why do you want to be the AD, or what brought you here today? It's not necessarily like, hey, this is the job and I want this job, but it's more of like your journey of how you got to sitting across from that interviewer and how you're going to like impress them and move that department forward beyond that where they are right now.
Right. Because I was going to ask you, and you talk about building your own personal narrative. And when you go into this interview, you want to make your answers that are your answers. You don't want to, say like something basic like, oh, I want to be an athletic director because I love student athletes and I love sports. Like there's more to it. So what is like the best way you think in these situations where obviously, somebody asks you this question, it's one of the most important questions you're ever going to be asked. How do you find that right answer in that moment?
Yeah. So for me, and I think the program set us up for this, is that they had us write down all of our milestones in our lives. So you start with birth. Was there a death in your family? Was there a divorce in your family? Did you have kids? Did you get married? College graduation, things of that nature. So starting with that and kind of looking at it to see which one of those was their true inflection point in regards to the path you're on now. So like for me, my parents unfortunately had a bankruptcy. And from there, I knew either I'm getting a Division I full scholarship to go play sports, or I'm going to the military. And I'll back up from that. I knew I wanted to be in sports in the early 90s when I watched the Dallas Cowboys and Buffalo Bills duke it out 2 years in a row for the Super Bowl. So then you fast forward to the bankruptcy, and I knew I wasn't going to be able to afford college. So I needed to find a means to do that. And my path back to it was a result of me being injured in the Air Force and falling in love with rehab. So then when I got out of the Air Force, I said, okay, I still love sports. I still want to be a part of sports. I have this newfound passion for rehab, and mixing the two, athletic training made sense. So that kind of put me on my path of sports, collegiate sports. And at the time, I think there's always that lofty goal of being in professional sports, but I found my way into collegiate sports, and I have loved it ever since. And being able to have an impact on student athletes has been such a blessing for me. And I know I have like a unique personality, and it takes some warming up to get to know me, but I always mean well, and I want everybody to be in a position to succeed. And it's not just the student athletes, but the coaches and support staff as well.
I mean, I think as a student athlete, and I know you on a different level, having dealt with you in like SAC and Leadership Academy and things like that, but you're just kind of everywhere. We see you at a lot of sporting events, if not all of them. I mean, you have an outside life outside of Marymount. But you still make the time, even if it's bringing the whole family out, but you're still here supporting Marymount. And I think that's like one of the biggest things. And all of our athletic directors do this, but just happen to be talking to you right now. It's just like a situation of like, you care. And I think that like to us, like means the most. And it's like never been a doubt in our mind that like AD Ryan doesn't care. Like that has never been something that we've thought as athletes. And so I think that goes back to like, you talk about like, authentically you. I think that's something like I can tell just from like being a student athlete here at Marymount.
Right. And I'll say when I bring my family out, it's because I know my kids love the student athletes so much,
and we love them
because you all love them. You pour back into them, which is huge. And I want my kids to feel that from people beyond just mom and dad and my family. I want them to be comfortable in the world of athletics and feel that love. But also you guys get to see them grow from year to year. And for those who don't know, I have 5 kids. So I feel like there's a lot of growth every year. Obviously going from, a newborn to 4 years old is huge. And it's cool for you guys to see that as well.
Yeah. And it's special too. Like some of us have relationships with these, like with them, like Hazel, like that's my girl. Like I love her. She's the cutest little thing. And I just like love watching her. Like I think you guys were at the doubleheader. No, was that where you were? Or was it women's?
We came out to the women's soccer.
Women's soccer. No, it was basketball the other day. Were you at basketball?
Oh,
Was it the doubleheader?
we were at basketball, yes.
Okay, yes. I just remember Hazel sitting over there in the student section. I was like, yeah, go girl.
Yeah.
She's over there supporting her Saints. I love it.
And they all have a personality of their own, which is, it's fun.
So along with the Pathway program, which kind of goes hand in hand with a lot that you do here at Marymount, you are the advisor for Student Athletic Advisory Committee in Leadership Academy. So obviously when you came to Marymount, you were not in the Pathway program. What made you take on, that responsibility and those roles? First and foremost, we'll start with SAC because Leadership Academy is still kind of newer here at Marymount. What made you step into the role of being a SAC advisor?
Right. So there were people that were SAC advisors prior to me being the SAC advisor, and they had moved on from Marymount. So I knew there was opportunity for me to kind of step in and be a part of that. And although you all may, unless you show up to noon hoops on Tuesdays, that staff may see, I do have a competitive side to me. And from the SAC perspective, this was also when I was an athletic trainer. I want Marymount to have the best when they go forth, to the conference or even at the national level. I want, when I was an athletic trainer, I wanted people to open up the medical kit and be like, oh, wow, this is super organized. You guys have it together. Same thing with SAC. I want us to be the cutting edge for, SAC within the conference, but also hopefully at some point within the national level. I want somebody to be sitting on the SAC board at the national level while I'm an advisor. That'd be cool. So I think I'm competitive in that perspective, and I just want our student athletes' voice to be heard too. So I think I have a unique perspective where I was forward facing with the student athletes and as an athletic trainer. So I've heard a lot of what student athletes have to say, good, bad, evil. But I want them to be able to bring that forward through SAC to the administration, which is hopefully happening. And then from the Leadership Academy, again, Sarah Gustin Hamrock, who's now at Messiah as their director of athletics, she used to have a Leadership Academy within athletics, but she left us the very front end of COVID. So there was a gap there where we didn't have a Leadership Academy. And again, I saw that as an opportunity for me to kind of jump in and take the reins. And it's been really fruitful for me because it's helped me through the Pathway program, some of those experiences. But it's also, on the flip side, the Pathway program is going to help this year's cohort for the Leadership Academy, which is going to be awesome just because the things I've learned now through the Pathway program. So, and last year with the Leadership Academy, I also got to go down to Quantico and do their leadership reaction course, which was, that was eye-opening. Some of the things that our armed forces go through and are able to do with a full uniform.
I couldn't even do it in shorts and a t-shirt. So.
I don't think anybody could. We all struggled.
We were talking about that the other day. We were talking about Alex Hain. I think he was in my group. He had this big gash on his leg because he was jumping around trying to get it. We thought we student athletes were going to be able to get that done.
Right. I tried asking the captain that was there, if somebody's really good at parkour or something, do they succeed? They're like, no, no, nobody truly succeeds unless your team is succeeding with you. You can't go through that course individually.
Yeah, I think we went through all of the little sections of it. And I think collectively, as the whole academy, I think we probably only figured out one. And if we figured it out within time was up.
Right.
We figured it out. But that was that's probably a core memory for me at Marymount. That was so much fun. I remember I was with Anna Schools, and Anna and I were really good friends last year. And we were looking around, we're where are we? Where are we supposed to be here?
That's how I felt just driving onto the base.
I know.
We're going to do here.
They're checking the van. I'm I'm good. I swear I'm a good person. So with touching on Quantico, having been with SAC and having been with the Leadership Academy, what are some of the most fondest memories you have within those two organizations here at Marymount?
Well, seeing SAC kind of grow, and I think that competitiveness in me is starting to wear off on to SAC, and this year's SAC group I think has been the greatest that I've seen.
It's a great group of individuals.
Upstairs right now in the lobby, we have cans galore from our canned food drive, which is awesome. And me telling the Food Rescue US, hey, this is how many cans we have right now, and we're expecting to have more. They can't even fathom how they're going to transport that. So that's really cool to see. But also we're doing things such as like a clothing drive. Mm-hmm. We're doing a campus cleanup tomorrow, which we actually started doing that with the Leadership Academy.
Yes, we did.
So I'm happy that SAC has also taken that and running with it. So I think just being able to serve the community, both Marymount and Arlington, has been really, really cool for me to see, and such a blessing as well. Like that, our student athletes are starting to like buy into that, which is cool. But I also think something I've loved is the SAC Golden Cup and redoing that whole like algorithm of point system. So it's not just like how many people from your team can show up to the game, because there's some teams that, you know, they just love Marymount so much and they go to every game, but then they get all the points and obviously they end up winning the trophy at the end. So we redid that, I don't know, 2 years ago now.
I think so.
And it follows a lot more of the Division III with academics, athletics, and community service. So earning points in each section. And I think that's something I've loved, and that this year it's going to be the actual team of the year will win that trophy. The SAC Golden Cup trophy will be the team of the year, encompassing all three of those categories. And we've also added in the canned food drive. So the top three teams get, 3 points for the top team, 2 and 1.
I was about to say, I know like coaches also are enjoying like the SAC Cup this year. I know like Natoli and I have like sat down and we was like, okay, how many service hours do we need like to get ahead? I'm like, a lot. That's all I can say. The answer is just a lot. As much as we can do, like we want to do. But like it's a sense for like not only for student athletes in SAC to be competitive, but like coaches are getting into it, and it just makes it more fun. Makes everything more exciting. People are like, this is a competitive school that we're at. Like Marymount likes to win. And so all of our teams like to win. So that makes like Golden Cup, it makes it pretty competitive at the end of the day.
And I think having in like the 3 tiers, it kind of gives different teams an opportunity, because there's obviously some teams that just excel in athletics, like they dominate. There's other teams that are like super academic, smart, or they're going to make it to the championship and they're going to have the Elite 20 winner. So those are points for them right there. And then we have those other teams that community service is just easy for them. They have things that are already in place. I want to say our women's lacrosse team.
We were both thinking the same thing.
They each get like over 40 hours of community service each year, which, by the way, makes it very easy when we have to nominate student athletes for awards. We know like, hey, they have the most community service. That's a team or a student athlete we can easily pick out.
So you've been with Marymount for a couple of years, Ryan. Let's talk about some of your fondest memories within like the program itself, like all of athletics through your whole time here at Marymount. Give me like maybe like your top 3 like moments at Marymount.
That's a lot. So top 3 moments at Marymount, and
in no order.
By the way, more than a couple of years. This is year number 10 at Marymount. One of my favorite memories is women's basketball. I think it was our final CAC championship. We were down the entire game. First of all, the gym was packed, which was awesome. For being a women's basketball game, everybody watches women's sports. I love that. And I feel like Marymount, our women's sports are supported. But final CAC championship game, down the entire game, and everything that had to happen right happened right. Getting a steal. Leah Hurst, she had this like crazy off balance layup floater, and it banks in and we win. We literally did not lead that game until the very last shot of the game, which was huge.
Yeah.
Then obviously we left the CAC to go start the Atlantic East. And then I would say 2 years ago, which was awesome, was seeing us win the Commissioner's Cup.
Yes.
Both the male and female side.
Yes.
And then, which obviously leads to us winning the Mike Dross Trophy for the like most successful institution within the Atlantic East. So that's number 2. I think that was cool. Like to bring that hardware.
That was a crazy year.
To bring that hardware home. And then men's soccer, when we hosted the first championship for men's soccer.
Yeah.
As chaotic as that was, and how much anxiety I had, having to try to control student athletes and parents, I think the fans rushing the field for that first men's soccer championship, that's ingrained in my head. And even though moving forward we're gonna have a fence up and not allow that to happen, for the safety of everybody.
Right.
Because last thing we need is, our star player getting hurt because they're in the bottom of a pile because fans rush the field. However, seeing that, I think, is just so special.
Oh, yeah. I mean, that's the kind of thing you see on TV, and it happened right in front of your eyes.
Right.
Like you see that all the time at these SEC football games, like fans storm the field after a big upset. Like that's kind of like, that's the same energy, here in Marymount. So that was really special. Hate that I had to miss that one. Everybody talks about that day, and I'm like, man, hate that I had to miss it. So moving forward, so you will be starting at the Leadership Academy here within a couple of weeks. SAC, we're going to start taking off here again. We have our clothing drive right now. We will have our toy drive starting in December 5th, I think, if anybody's watching, December 5th. What are you looking for the rest of this year? I mean, taking what you've learned in the Pathway program and will continue to learn, as you grow here at Marymount, what is something that you're looking for the rest of this year?
I'm hoping that with the Pathway program and even SAC, that things I've learned in the with the Leadership Academy and SAC, the things I've learned in the Pathway program, I'll be able to rub off on some of these student athletes, and they'll be able to rub it off on other people. Just simply asking more questions and being more intentional about things. I think from a SAC perspective, we have already gone down the right path this fall. Continuing that in the spring, it's a little bit more hectic in the spring, but I think being more intentional about things and having things planned out will succeed. I'm not worried about that. The Pathway program, the Leadership Academy will be more like the Pathway program, where it'll be longer sessions, fewer but longer sessions, and versus trying to spread it out. Again, I have 5 kids, so my time at home is also in high demand.
Oh yeah.
So trying to condense my time here is really important. So I think those two things are going to be huge. I think the cohort for this year's Leadership Academy, I think they're going to like the things that we have planned going through. We're a little behind the curve this year because of the birth of my 5th child, but also the transition to a new women's basketball coach who's the co-coordinator for this Leadership Academy. So we're a little behind on that, but we'll get it going early December, and then we're going to come back with fury in next semester. Yeah,
proud alumni of the Leadership Academy. I loved it. I mean, that was a key moment, and I think a part of who I am here at Marymount. I think I know kind of the role that I serve here, and I, I'm proud to have the platform that I have at Marymount, and I think a lot of it I owe to not only SAC but the Leadership Academy, because it teaches you what everybody knows. It teaches you how to be a leader when you don't want to be, in tough times, when you're dealing with people that you don't necessarily agree with or that you don't see eye to eye with. And I think that's the biggest thing that I learned through that program, is because I can easily agree with somebody that thinks the same as me. That's easy, but it's not easy when I have to sit there and I disagree with somebody, but I know, hey, I can't cause a scene here. I have to be responsible. I have to be an adult. I have to be mature. And I think that led me to be a strong captain of my team, is simply because of dealing with things through the Leadership Academy. I think that form fully put me into the human I am today.
That's great to hear.
Thanks, Ryan. You're a key to my success. All right, Ryan. Well, I want to thank you for joining me today. I'm so glad that I finally got you here. It took some time, but I think it was well worth it. I want to thank you for joining me today. Looking forward to getting to spend some more time with you through SAC this year. Excited to hear about the Leadership Academy. I know it's going to be great things, but yeah, thank you again.
Thanks for having me, Ella.